You think school cafeteria food in the 1970s was nothing but mystery meat, soggy vegetables, and cartons of chocolate milk? Think again. Long before fast food chains took over every corner of America, school lunch ladies were feeding millions of children with recipes that were surprisingly creative, surprisingly filling, and sometimes surprisingly delicious. These weren't meals designed by corporate nutrition departments, and somehow turned tight budgets into lunches that generations of kids still remember decades later. Some of these foods were hearty. Some were downright strange. And a few became so beloved that students would rush to the lunch line the moment they smelled them cooking down the hallway. Maybe you remember trading desserts to get an extra serving. Maybe you remember scraping your tray clean. Or maybe there's a recipe on this list you haven't thought about in 50 years. Today we're stepping back into the school cafeterias of the 1970s to rediscover 60 forgotten lunchroom favorites they'll never serve again. From cheesy casseroles and legendary desserts to cafeteria classics that disappeared without a trace, these are the recipes that helped define an entire generation of American childhood. Let's head back to the lunch line. Number 1. Hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. This was the one. The lunch that did not look like much when the ladle hit your tray and looked like everything once you took the first bite. The mashed potatoes came from a 50-pound bag of dehydrated flakes from the USDA commodity program, reconstituted in a steam kettle with hot water, real butter, and a splash of whole milk, then whipped with a wire whip on a long handle until they held a peak like something a grandmother would be proud of. A number 12 scoop dropped a perfect dome onto the center of your tray like a small white hill. Then came the hamburger gravy. Ground beef browned in a tilt skillet with diced onion until the meat went dark at the edges and the onion turned translucent and sweet. Flour went in next, coating every crumble, then beef broth poured in slow while the lunch lady stirred and the whole skillet thickened into something glossy and deep brown that smelled like a Sunday kitchen on a Wednesday afternoon. A full 6-ounce ladle went over that potato dome and ran down every side and pooled in the corners of the compartment. And you dragged each forkful through that pool deliberately because you wanted every single bite to have both. This was not a fancy lunch. It never pretended to be. It was ground beef and instant potatoes and a gravy made from scratch by a woman who had been making it the same way for 15 years and knew exactly when it was right without measuring a single thing. By 2014, the sodium in the gravy and the milk fat in the potatoes together crossed every new federal threshold at once. The tilt skillet got assigned to something else. The lunch lady learned a new recipe she never loved as much. Number 2. Baked spaghetti. The smell hit you halfway down the hallway at 10 in the morning, and your stomach made a decision before your brain caught up. 20-pound bags of dry spaghetti went into a 30-gallon kettle of boiling water while the sauce built itself in a separate tilt skillet. Ground beef browned first. Then canned tomato puree. Then garlic powder, dried oregano, a pinch of sugar that nobody ever listed on the recipe card but every lunch lady added anyway because it rounded out the acid and made the whole thing taste like it had been simmering since Tuesday. The pasta came out of that kettle in a wire scoop like a net pulling something precious from deep water. Into a deep hotel pan it went, sauce ladled over the top, then the whole thing slid into the oven for another 20 minutes until the edges of the pasta caught the heat and the top layer went from glossy to matte and slightly firm. That is what made cafeteria baked spaghetti different from every other spaghetti you ever ate. The bake. Those edges that crisped just enough to give your fork something to push against before the center gave way soft and saucy underneath. A 6-ounce ladle dropped a generous tangle onto your tray with a piece of garlic bread pressed against the side like it was holding everything together. Kids with braces ate the garlic bread first and worried about the rest later. The 2012 standards capped white pasta to 1 serving per week per child, and the recipe quietly disappeared from most menus by 2015. The kettle stayed. The oregano stayed. The baked part, the part that made it what it was, never came back. Number 3. Chicken pot pie. There was a moment when that square spatula broke through the crust, and the steam came up off the gravy underneath, and every kid within 3 feet of that tray turned their head. That moment was chicken pot pie day. The crust was a full sheet of pie dough laid flat across a deep hotel pan, nothing fancy, Nothing decorated, just pale and smooth going into the oven and coming out golden and blistered in patches after 45 minutes at 350 degrees. Underneath that crust was a thick stew of diced white meat chicken, peas, carrots, and a roux made from chicken fat and flour that had been cooking long enough to turn the color of warm butter. The USDA's surplus chicken program had been feeding this recipe since 1955, which meant a kid in Georgia and a kid in Montana were eating the exact same pot pie on the exact same Wednesday from the exact same federal commodity supply. That paperback book-sized square landed in the main compartment of your tray, and the gravy immediately began pushing toward the edges. You broke the crust deliberately, slowly, because the steam needed somewhere to go and because you wanted to see what was underneath, like opening something that had been sealed just for you. The vegetables were soft. The chicken pulled apart without any effort. The gravy was thick enough to coat your fork on the way out. By 2012, the pie crust failed the saturated fat calculation and districts replaced it with chicken stew over a whole grain biscuit. The biscuit is fine, but it does not steam when you break it open. And that moment, that specific moment, belongs only to the original. Number 4. Macaroni and cheese. You knew the color before you even got to the line. That specific shade of neon yellow-orange that existed nowhere else in nature, and somehow made your mouth water the moment you spotted it 3 compartments away on someone else's tray. This was not the blue box. This was not anything you could replicate at home. The recipe came straight from the 1988 USDA Quantity Cookbook, and it did not apologize for a single ingredient. 18 pounds of dry elbow pasta boiled in a 30-gallon kettle. A full gallon of whole milk. 2 pounds of butter. And 4 pounds of processed American cheese cut into cubes and melted into the sauce until it coated every noodle like a warm blanket pulled tight. The whole batch went into a deep hotel pan and baked for 40 minutes at 350 degrees. What came out had a thin crusted top layer the color of an autumn leaf, slightly firm, slightly crisp, sitting over a molten interior that moved when you cut into it. A square serving spoon dropped a portion about the size of a coffee mug onto your tray. You chased the noodles around the compartment with your fork, and you never once complained about the effort. It was the side dish that made every entree better, and the entree that needed no side dish at all. The 2012 nutrition standards measured the saturated fat in that cheese sauce, and found it pushing past 16% of total calories. The new cap sat at 10. Reduced fat cheddar replaced the processed American. Whole grain noodles replaced the elbows. The color is closer to ivory now. The neon is gone, and it took something irreplaceable with it. Number 5. Friday fish sticks. Friday meant fish. It didn't matter what religion you were. It didn't matter what district you were in. By the time the 1980s rolled around, Friday Fish Day had embedded itself into the American school cafeteria calendar so completely that nobody questioned it anymore. It started with the Catholic kids needing a meatless option. And once a kitchen was set up for Fish Friday, the rules stayed for absolutely everyone. The fish sticks came frozen in a wax-lined case of 200 breaded golden rectangles of Atlantic pollock caught off the Massachusetts coast, baked on a sheet pan for 15 minutes at 400 degrees until the breading turned the color of dry sand and the inside steamed through completely. 3 sticks per tray. A scoop of macaroni and cheese alongside. A square of cornbread in the corner. And then the paper cup. That small pleated paper cup of tartar sauce the lunch lady mixed herself from a bowl of mayonnaise and pickle relish sitting right there on the counter. You dragged each stick through that cup slowly because you only had so much, and rationing it was a skill you developed by 2nd grade. The lemon wedge on the side was largely decorative, but every kid squeezed it anyway because it felt like the right thing to do. By 2014, the breading tested above the new federal sodium limits for elementary trays. The cases stopped arriving on Tuesday mornings. The paper cups disappeared. And Friday became just another day on the cafeteria calendar with nothing to set it apart from any other. Number 6. Tater tots. Nobody on that lunch line had a loyalty problem when tater tots were on the tray. Every other side dish was negotiable. The corn got pushed around. The green beans got left behind. But the tater tots? Gone before you even picked up your fork. They arrived in a 15-pound box from Orida, frozen into perfect golden cylinders the size of a child's thumb. The cafeteria oven loaded 6 sheet pans at once, 400 degrees for 20 minutes, no flipping required. What came out was a tray of crisp-shelled, steam-packed potato cylinders that shattered when you bit into them and went soft in the center like a tiny baked potato wrapped in a shell of pure crunch. A scoop and a half went onto each tray. Then the lunch lady hit them with a steel salt shaker she refilled every single morning before the first bell. That salt landed on hot oil and stuck. You could taste it on the first one before you even sat down. Kids built entire eating strategies around the tater tot. Salisbury steak got dipped in gravy first, then dragged through the tots. The tots went first always, then everything else. The order was as fixed as the bell's schedule, and every kid at that table followed it without anyone saying a word. Modern cafeteria fryers were removed from most American elementary schools under saturated fat regulations. The tots that survived came back as baked oven varieties. Lighter. Drier. The shell doesn't shatter anymore. The salt doesn't stick the same way. Something fundamental left with the fryer and never came back. Number 7. Peanut butter bars. There was nothing else on that tray once you saw it. Not the corn. Not the milk carton. Not whatever entree was sitting in the main compartment. Just that bar. Dark chocolate on top, perfectly smooth, cut into a clean rectangle with a knife that had been dipped in hot water between every single slice. The recipe lived on an index card in the lunch lady's binder, and nowhere else. 1 pound of butter, 3 cups of peanut butter, 4 cups of powdered sugar, 6 cups of graham cracker crumbs, all mixed by hand in a stainless steel bowl the size of a baby bath. Pressed into a half-sheet pan half an inch thick. Topped with melted milk chocolate and butter, smoothed flat with the back of a long spatula, then chilled in the walk-in cooler for 2 full hours. What came out was something closer to a Reese's cup pressed into a brick than anything the word dessert normally covers. Sweet on top. Salty underneath. Dense enough to fill a small hand completely. It appeared on the 4-week rotation exactly twice a month. On those mornings, attendance in some elementary schools rose by 7%. Kids traded their entire entrees for a second one. Lunch ladies baked an extra pan for the teachers because the teachers were trading for them too. In 2014, the Smart Snacks rule capped dessert at 200 calories. The peanut butter bar carried 460. It was gone within 18 months. The index card stayed in the binder. The binder went home with the lunch lady when she retired. Number 8. Sloppy Joes. The bun was soaked through before your tray even hit the table. And nobody cared. The recipe ran on a single page of the 1988 USDA quantity cookbook like it owned the place. 25 pounds of ground beef, 4 cans of tomato sauce, brown sugar, vinegar, mustard, diced onion, and Worcestershire. Everything went into a tilt skillet and simmered for 40 minutes while the smell crawled through every hallway in the building. By 10 in the morning, every kid in that school already knew what day it was. The mixture came out deep red, thick, and sweet at the edges with just enough vinegar bite underneath to keep it honest. A kindergartner got 1 scoop on a hamburger bun. A 6th grader got 2. The bun collapsed the moment that ladle made contact, which meant the only real way to eat a cafeteria sloppy joe was with a fork, and every kid figured that out by their second time through the line. The meat spilled into the compartment, and you chased it around the tray and scraped every last bit because nothing on that rotation tasted quite like it. A single serving ran past 900 milligrams of sodium. The 2012 standards drew the cap well below that number. The tilt skillet got repurposed. The Worcestershire bottle got put away. And an entire generation of kids lost the one lunch that made them actually forget they were in school. Number 9. Salisbury steak. It looked like a hamburger that had given up on the bun, and it was glorious. The patty was beef and breadcrumb, shaped in a press, frozen flat, then baked from frozen for 40 minutes in a deep hotel pan. No shortcuts. No skipping steps. While it baked, the gravy came together in a separate pot. A sealed pouch of mushroom and onion base, hot water, and a wooden paddle stirred long enough to coat the back of a ladle. Thick. Dark. The kind of gravy that pooled in every corner of your tray compartment, and pulled everything into it. The cafeteria recipe from the 1988 USDA quantity cookbook called for 1 pound of meat to feed 5 kids, which made Salisbury steak the single cheapest hot entree on the entire line. It went straight onto a bed of mashed potatoes, green beans alongside, and that gravy ladled across both like a dark blanket over everything. You either loved it or you refused to touch it. And every lunch lady in America knew by 3rd grade exactly which side of that line you were on. She didn't even have to ask. By 2012, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act measured the sodium in that patty and the gravy together, and came back over the new limit. The wooden paddles went into storage. The recipe never came back out. Number 10, rectangle pizza. It wasn't round. It was never round. And somehow that made it better. A frozen sheet of par-baked dough, 14 by 20 inches, came stacked 12 to a case from a regional supplier. The lunch lady ladled tomato sauce straight from a tilt skillet, spread it with the back of a serving spoon like she'd done it 10,000 times, because she had, then buried the whole sheet under 1.5 pounds of low-moisture mozzarella. 8 minutes at 500 degrees. Then that long-handled wheel cutter came down and gave you 24 perfect rectangles. Each one weighed about 4 ounces. The crust was thick, almost focaccia-like, with a thin glaze of oil on the bottom from the parchment. The cheese cooled into one single rubbery layer you could lift whole and fold in half. Friday was rectangle pizza day. Kids who hated everything else on that tray still finished their rectangle in 3 bites and looked back at the warming line. In 1987, it cost the district 65 cents a serving. By 2012, the new rules demanded whole grain dough, reduced fat cheese, and sodium under 480 milligrams per serving. The original carried nearly 700. The wheel cutter still exists. The recipe doesn't. Number 11.
Peanut butter and banana sandwich. Peanut butter and banana sandwich was one of those lunches you could spot the second a kid opened his metal lunchbox. The smell of peanut butter and ripe banana drifted across the cafeteria table before the wax paper was even folded back. It started with 2 slices of soft white bread, a thick swipe of creamy peanut butter spread all the way to the crust. Then a banana was sliced into little coins and layered across the top before the bread was pressed together. By lunchtime, those banana slices had already turned soft and a little brown, blending into the peanut butter. The bread absorbed everything, making the sandwich tender and slightly sticky. The taste was sweet, nutty, and smooth. Peanut butter is rich and salty, and banana is mellow and sugary. Some kids ate it neat. Others squeezed the sandwich a little so the filling pushed out the sides and licked it off their fingers before the next bite. Simple food like that had a way of making an ordinary school day feel pretty darn good.
Number 12.
Peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwich. Peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwich was the one that made other kids at the lunch table lean over and say, "Well, I'll be, you got a fluffer nutter." It started with the same soft white bread everybody had in the bread box. Peanut butter spread thick on one slice, smooth and salty, then a generous layer of marshmallow fluff on the other, bright white and sticky as can be. When the sandwich was pressed together, the fluff and peanut butter slowly blended into a sweet, creamy filling. By the time the lunch bell rang, the fluff had softened even more, stretching in little strands when the sandwich was pulled apart. The smell was sugary and nutty all at once. The first bite was pure sweetness. Peanut butter is rich and hearty, marshmallow light and sticky, clinging to your teeth like taffy. And before long, most kids had powdered sugar fingerprints and sticky fingers all over their lunch napkins.
Number 13.
Bread and syrup sandwich. Bread and syrup sandwich was about as simple as a school lunch could get. When a kid unwrapped that wax paper at the cafeteria table, the smell of pancake syrup came out before the sandwich even showed itself. It started with 2 slices of plain white bread laid flat on the counter. A slow drizzle of pancake syrup right down the middle, thick and amber-colored, spreading across the soft bread. Once the slices were pressed together, the syrup soaked into the bread like a sponge. By lunchtime, the sandwich was soft, slightly sticky, and sweet all the way through. The taste was pure sugar comfort, warm maple flavor mixed with soft bread that practically melted when you bit into it. Some kids ate it carefully. Others squeezed the sandwich just a little and watched the syrup seep out of the edges before licking their fingers clean. It wasn't fancy by any stretch, but that sweet syrup smell could turn a plain lunch break into the best part of the school day.
Number 14.
Butter and sugar sandwich. Butter and sugar sandwich was the kind of lunch that looked almost too simple to be real. Just white bread, butter, and a heavy sprinkle of sugar, but plenty of kids remember unwrapping one at the cafeteria table. It started with soft bread straight from the loaf. A thick layer of butter was spread across each slice while it was still cool and firm. Then a generous shake of white sugar was scattered over the butter like fresh snow. When the bread was pressed together, the sugar settled into the butter and formed a sweet, gritty layer inside the sandwich. By lunchtime, the butter had softened into the bread, and the sugar still had that little crunch when you took a bite. The flavor was rich and sweet at the same time. Creamy butter first, then the quick sparkle of sugar crystals. Some kids tilted the sandwich to keep the sugar from spilling out. Others didn't bother and ended up with sugar grains scattered across the lunch table like tiny diamonds.
Number 15.
Ketchup sandwich on white bread. Ketchup sandwich on white bread was the kind of lunch that made a kid glance around the cafeteria before taking the first bite. No meat, no cheese, just that bright red spread between two slices of bread. It started with a bottle of ketchup turned upside down over a slice of soft white bread. A generous squeeze landed in the center, then a butter knife spread edge to edge until the bread turned light pink. The second slice went on top, pressed flat, and the whole thing disappeared into a sheet of wax paper. By lunchtime, the ketchup had softened into the bread, and the sandwich soft and slightly tangy. The smell was sweet tomato and vinegar the moment the wrapper opened. The taste was surprisingly bold, sweet, a little salty, and just sharp enough to wake up your taste buds. Some kids folded it in half like a regular sandwich. Others rolled it up and ate it quickly before anyone had too many questions about what was inside.
Number 16.
Cheese and pickle sandwich. The cheese and pickle sandwich had a smell you could recognize the moment the wax paper opened. Sharp pickle brine mixed with creamy American cheese drifted across the lunch table. It started with 2 slices of white bread laid flat, a square of American cheese right in the middle, bright orange and smooth. Then a few thin slices of dill pickle stacked on top, still dripping a little from the jar. When the sandwich was pressed together, that pickle juice slowly soaked into the bread. By lunchtime, the bread had softened around the edges, while the pickles stayed crisp inside. The first bite snapped with that familiar pickle crunch before the creamy cheese took over. The flavor was a strange little balance that somehow worked. Salty cheese, sharp pickle tang, and soft bread holding it all together. Every bite left a little pickle scent on your fingers, and that briny taste hung around long after the lunch bell rang.
Number 17.
Pimento cheese sandwich. Pimento cheese sandwich was a lunch that carried a bright orange color the second it came out of the wax paper. Kids down the table could spot it right away. It started with a thick spread of pimento cheese across soft white bread. The mixture was creamy and slightly chunky, sharp cheddar blended with mayonnaise and dotted with little red pimento pieces. When the sandwich was pressed together, the spread settled into the bread like a soft filling. By lunchtime, the edges of the bread had absorbed some of that creamy mixture, making the sandwich tender and rich. The smell was cheesy, with just a hint of pepper from the pimentos. The first bite was smooth and tangy. Sharp cheese, creamy texture, and those tiny red pimentos adding a mild sweetness. Sometimes the filling squeezed out the sides, leaving orange fingerprints on napkins and lunch tables that were easy to spot from across the room.
Number 18.
Cold meatloaf sandwich. Cold meatloaf sandwich showed up the day after meatloaf night, and you could spot it the moment someone unwrapped their lunch. A thick slice of yesterday's dinner sitting between 2 pieces of white bread. The meatloaf had been sliced straight from the fridge, firm and dense, with that familiar ketchup glaze still clinging to the top. Placed between soft bread, it made a sandwich that looked simple, but carried the smell of a whole home-cooked dinner. By lunchtime, the bread had absorbed a little of that savory meatloaf flavor. The first bite was hearty and rich, ground beef, breadcrumbs, onion, and that slightly sweet ketchup topping.
Cold meatloaf had a different texture from hot, firmer, easier to hold, almost like a homemade deli slice. Some kids added a little dab of ketchup on top. Others ate it plain, letting that thick slice of meatloaf do all the talking.
Number 19.
Tuna salad sandwich. A tuna salad sandwich usually showed up the day or two after a big ham dinner. When someone opened their lunchbox, you could see that pale pink spread right away. The filling started with a can of tuna emptied into a bowl and flaked apart with a fork. A scoop of mayonnaise was stirred in until everything turned creamy and pale. Spread across white bread, the tuna mixture sat thick between the slices before being wrapped up for the school day. By lunchtime, the edges of the bread had absorbed some of that creamy mixture, making the sandwich tender and rich. The smell was cheesy, with just a hint of pepper from the pimentos. The first bite was smooth and tangy. Flaky fish, creamy dressing, and soft bread all blend together. Some kids added a little pickle slice or a little celery crunch, but most remembered the classic version, simple tuna salad that left its mark on the whole lunch table.
Number 20.
Ham salad sandwich. A ham salad sandwich usually showed up the day or two after a big ham dinner. When someone opened their lunchbox, you could see that pale pink spread right away. The filling started with cooked ham chopped fine, sometimes run through a grinder, until it turned into tiny salty bits. A spoonful of mayonnaise mixed in, sometimes a little pickle relish too, turning it into a creamy spread. That mixture was piled onto white bread and pressed together before being wrapped up in wax paper. By lunchtime, the bread had softened slightly while the ham salad stayed thick and savory inside. The smell carried that unmistakable cured ham flavor with a hint of tang from the mayo. The first bite was salty, creamy, and rich, little pieces of ham throughout, smooth enough to spread but still hearty. Now and then a bit of relish popped in for a sharp little bite that made the whole sandwich wake up.
Number 21.
Deviled ham sandwich on white bread. Now this one takes you straight back to a Monday morning in 1974. Deviled ham was not something fancy from the deli. It came from a small can with a key or pull tab on the side. That little can sat in the pantry for weeks, waiting for a morning when the fridge looked bare and the school bus was coming fast. Mom would open the can, scrape every bit out with a butter knife, and spread that deviled ham thick across 2 slices of soft white bread, usually Wonder Bread. Nothing toasted, nothing extra, no lettuce, no tomato, just ham spread and bread. She wrapped it tight in wax paper, folded the corners just right, and slid it into your metal lunchbox. No ice pack, no cooler, just room temperature until noon. By the time lunch rolled around, that sandwich had been sitting for 4 hours. You would sit down at the cafeteria table, snap open that metal latch, and slowly unwrap the wax paper. That salty canned ham smell would drift out. Not terrible, not great. Just strong enough that the kid next to you might glance over and say, "What are you eating?" The texture was smooth and spreadable, almost like a paste.
Number 22.
Egg salad sandwich with Miracle Whip. Now, if deviled ham was Monday, egg salad was usually Tuesday. You could always tell when Mom had boiled extra eggs the night before. That meant one thing the next morning: egg salad sandwiches. She would peel those hard-boiled eggs at the kitchen counter, mash them up in a bowl with a fork, and add a big spoonful of Miracle Whip. Not mayonnaise, Miracle Whip. That slightly sweet, tangy spread that every fridge seemed to have back then. Sometimes she added a pinch of salt and a little black pepper. If she was feeling fancy, maybe a tiny bit of mustard. But most of the time, it was just eggs and Miracle Whip. She would spread that thick, pale yellow mixture onto 2 slices of white bread, press them together and wrap them tightly in wax paper. Into the metal lunchbox it went. No ice pack, no refrigeration, just sitting there until noon. By lunchtime, that sandwich had warmed up to room temperature. You would unwrap it slowly, and that eggy, slightly sweet smell would rise. The texture was soft and creamy, the egg whites were tender, the yolk mixed smoothly with the Miracle Whip. The bread had absorbed some of the moisture, making it soft around the edges. Some kids loved it. Some kids tried to trade it. But if you grew up in the 1970s, chances are you ate more than a few egg salad sandwiches at that cafeteria table without thinking twice about it.
Number 23.
Liverwurst and mayonnaise sandwich. Now this one separated the brave from the picky. Liverwurst was not for everybody. It came from the deli counter, sliced thick, wrapped in paper, and brought home like it was something special. Mom would lay those soft, pinkish-brown slices on the cutting board early in the morning while the coffee was still brewing. She would take 2 slices of white bread, spread a thin layer of mayonnaise on one side, and place the liverwurst right on top. Sometimes she added a slice of onion if Dad liked it that way, but most school lunches kept it simple. Just liverwurst and mayo, wrapped neatly in wax paper, tucked into your metal lunchbox. By the time lunchtime came, you would open your lunchbox and already know what was inside before you even saw it. Liverwurst had a smell. Rich, meaty, strong. Some kids would look over and say, "What is that stuff?" But you took a bite anyway. The texture was smooth and almost creamy. Liverwurst spreads easily, almost like butter. The mayonnaise added just enough moisture to keep it from feeling dry. The bread stayed soft, pressed flat from being packed tightly in the lunchbox. It was not flashy. It was not modern. But back then, it was normal. If your mom packed liverwurst, you knew she was stretching every dollar and making sure you did not go hungry. And in the 1970s, that was what mattered most.
Number 24.
Olive loaf sandwich. Now here is one you do not see much anymore. Olive loaf. You would spot it behind the glass at the deli counter. That pale pink lunch meat with little green olives scattered through it like polka dots. As a kid, it almost looked fancy. Mom would ask for a few slices, thin or sometimes a little thick, and bring them home wrapped in white deli paper. The next morning, she would lay 2 slices of white bread on the counter, stack the olive loaf neatly in the middle, and sometimes add a thin swipe of yellow mustard. Nothing more than that. She wrapped it in wax paper, folded it tight, and slid it into your metal lunchbox. When you unwrapped it at the cafeteria table, you could see those little olive pieces staring back at you. Some kids thought it looked strange. Others wanted to trade. The taste was mild and salty, with tiny bursts of briny olive in every few bites. The texture was soft, slightly chewy, and the bread had flattened down from being packed tightly. It was simple, affordable, probably around 50 cents for the whole sandwich.
Number 25.
Spam sandwich with mustard. Now, this one right here brings back some memories. Spam was always in the pantry. That blue and yellow can sit on the shelf like it would outlive all of us. When money was tight or the fridge looked empty, Spam was the answer. Mom would open that can with the little metal key, slide the block of meat out onto a plate, and slice it into thin pieces. Sometimes she fried it for dinner. But for school lunch, most of the time it went on the bread just the way it was. 2 slices of white bread are on the counter, a layer of Spam, and a thin line of yellow mustard spread across the top. That was it. She wrapped it tightly in wax paper and placed it into your metal lunchbox, where it sat for hours without a single ice pack in sight. By lunchtime, the sandwich had warmed up to room temperature. You would unwrap it slowly at the cafeteria table, and that salty canned meat smell would rise. Spam had a firm texture, but was still soft enough to bite through easily. The mustard gave it that sharp little kick that made it taste stronger than it really was. The bread flattened down from being packed tightly. It was salty, it was simple, and it filled you up.
Number 26.
Potted meat sandwich. Now this was pure pantry survival. Potted meat did not come from the deli. It came in a small flat can, usually stacked right next to the tuna. The label did not say much, and you did not ask too many questions about what was inside. On a busy morning, Mom would grab that little can, pop it open, and scoop the meat out with a spoon. It had a soft, spreadable texture, almost like a paste. She would spread it thick across 2 slices of white bread. No lettuce, no tomato, maybe a thin swipe of mayonnaise if there was time. But most days, it was just potted meat and bread. When you opened it at the cafeteria table, you already knew what to expect. The smell was strong and meaty, a little salty, a little metallic. Not terrible, but not exactly something the kid next to you wanted to trade for. The texture was very soft, almost too soft. The bread soaked up the moisture and turned slightly soggy by noon. It was salty and filling, and that was the point. But if you grew up in the 1970s, you remember unwrapping that wax paper and eating it anyway, because that was lunch and that was that.
Number 27.
Head cheese sandwich. This was the sandwich that made other kids stare. Head cheese did not look like regular lunch meat. It looked almost see-through, with little chunks of meat suspended inside like something out of a science experiment. You would see it at the deli counter and wonder who actually bought it. Well, somebody did, and sometimes it was your mom. She would bring home a few slices wrapped in deli paper, lay 2 pieces of white bread on the counter, and place the head cheese right in the middle. Maybe a thin swipe of mustard if she thought it needed a little kick. Then she wrapped it carefully in wax paper and placed it into your metal lunchbox. By lunchtime, the sandwich had softened slightly from the warmth of the room. When you unwrapped it at the cafeteria table, you could see the little bits of meat inside that jelly-like layer. Some kids would lean over and say, "What in the world is that?" The texture was soft, but slightly firm, almost gelatinous. The flavor was mild, a little salty, not as strong as it looked.
Number 28.
Bologna and cheese sandwich. Now this one was a true classic. If you heard the deli slicer running on Sunday afternoon, chances were bologna was coming home in a paper-wrapped bundle. That big round slice with the red ring around the edge was a staple in just about every refrigerator in the 1970s. On a school morning, Mom would lay 2 slices of white bread on the counter, place 1 or 2 slices of bologna right in the center, and top it with a square of American cheese, the kind that barely fit the bread and hung over the edges just a little. Sometimes she added a thin spread of mayonnaise or a small line of yellow mustard. Most days, it was kept simple. When you opened it at the cafeteria table, it smelled mild and familiar. Salty bologna, creamy cheese, soft white bread. The bologna had that smooth, slightly smoky flavor. The American cheese added a creamy bite. And the bread, flattened from being packed tight, held everything together. It was not fancy, it was not exciting, but it was dependable. And back then, that was enough.
Number 29.
Tuna salad sandwich at room temperature. By the time you smelled it, it was already too late. Tuna salad had a way of announcing itself the second that lunchbox snapped open. That unmistakable scent of canned tuna mixed with mayonnaise drifted across the cafeteria table. Mom would drain the tuna straight from the can into a bowl, break it apart with a fork, and stir in a good spoonful of mayonnaise. Sometimes there were little extras, like chopped celery or a bit of pickle relish. Sometimes not. It depended on what was in the fridge that week. She would scoop it onto white bread, press the slices together, and wrap it up in wax paper like always. And then it sat, all morning, in a locker, in a classroom. No ice, no cooler. By noon, that tuna salad was completely room temperature. You would unwrap it slowly, hoping it was not too strong that day. The bread would be soft and slightly damp from the mixture. The tuna was flaky and salty, the mayonnaise creamy but warm. Looking back now, it is wild to think we ate tuna that had been sitting in a metal box for 4 hours. But in the 1970s, nobody thought twice about it. It was just another ordinary school lunch.
Number 30.
Ham salad sandwich. This was what happened to Sunday dinner leftovers. If your family had ham the night before, you already knew what might show up in your lunchbox the next morning. Mom would take those leftover slices, chop them up fine on the cutting board, and mix them in a bowl with mayonnaise. Sometimes there was a little sweet pickle relish stirred in. Sometimes just a touch of mustard. Nothing fancy, just whatever stretched it far enough to make a sandwich. She would spoon that pink, creamy mixture onto white bread and press the slices together. By the time it was wrapped in wax paper, it looked simple enough. But by noon, it had changed. After sitting all morning in your metal lunchbox, the bread would be soft and slightly damp around the edges. The ham salad inside was creamy, salty, and just a little sweet if relish was added. When you unwrapped it at the cafeteria table, it did not look impressive. It was not colorful. It was not trendy. It was just practical, but it was filling. Back then, nothing went to waste. Leftover ham became lunch, and you ate it without a second thought because that was just how things were done in the 1970s.
Number 31.
The Sloppy Joe. Ground. Beef simmered in a sweet ketchup-y sauce, slapped onto a bun and served piping hot. Cheap, filling, and easy to make in bulk. But here's the thing. Cafeteria versions weren't exactly gourmet. Sometimes the bun was soggy, sometimes the sauce was more water than tomato. Still, for a lot of kids, Sloppy Joe Day was the highlight of the week. Messy, yes, but delicious.
Number 32.
Cream chipped beef on toast. Kids called it SOS, the same nickname soldiers used during World War II. Dried beef, chopped into little pieces, swimming in a thick white gravy and poured over toast. It was salty, it was heavy, and let's be honest, it wasn't winning any beauty contests. But it was protein-packed, and schools loved it because it was cheap. For kids, though, it was a gamble. Some liked it. Others, they wished they'd packed a PB&J instead.
Number 33.
Tuna noodle casserole. Imagine egg noodles, canned tuna, cream of mushroom soup, all baked together with breadcrumbs or crushed potato chips on top. This was mid-century comfort food at its finest, or worst, depending on who you ask. Schools loved it because it could feed hundreds of kids with just a few cans of tuna. And hey, it was protein. But the smell? Let's just say, once tuna casserole day hit the cafeteria, the whole building knew about it.
Number 34.
Meatloaf with mashed potatoes. It was hearty, filling, and very much a taste of home for kids whose moms made the same thing at dinner. The problem? School meatloaf was often more mystery than meat. It was stretched with breadcrumbs, oats, and sometimes even soy. Add a scoop of instant mashed potatoes, and you had a meal that was more about keeping bellies full than making taste buds happy. Still, it was a staple on almost every menu. Number 6 might sound simple. The bologna sandwich. White bread, a slice of bologna, maybe a squirt of mustard, and boom, lunch. It was cheap, fast, and kids either loved it or hated it. Some schools served it with a pickle spear on the side, others with a bag of chips. Today, bologna might not feel fancy, but in the 50s and 60s, it was a cafeteria classic.
Number 35.
American goulash. This wasn't the fancy European version. Nope. This was macaroni, ground beef, tomato sauce, and sometimes corn, all stirred together in one big pot. It was simple, hearty, and could be ladled out by the gallon. The beauty of goulash was that no two schools made it the same. Some versions were tangy, some bland, and some, well, let's just say they belonged in the lost and found. Yes, you heard that right.
Number 36.
The peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. Believe it or not, this combo was popular in school cafeterias. Creamy peanut butter spread on white bread, topped with mayo and served to unsuspecting kids. Some swore by it, saying the mayo added richness. Others gagged at the sight. Today it sounds bizarre, but in the 1950s and 60s, this was considered a nutritious, protein-packed lunch.
Number 37.
The hot dog. Served on a plain bun, sometimes with a squirt of mustard or ketchup, and usually paired with baked beans. They were cheap, quick to cook, and easy to serve in huge batches. For kids, Hot Dog Day was exciting. It felt like a treat compared to casseroles and mystery meat. The only problem? Sometimes the dogs were boiled to rubbery perfection.
Number 38.
The famous fish stick, breaded, frozen, and baked until crispy on the outside, mushy on the inside. Served with tartar sauce or ketchup, they were a Friday staple, especially in Catholic schools where meat wasn't served on Fridays. Fish sticks may not have been gourmet seafood, but for many kids, they were crunchy, tasty, and way better than liver loaf. It was one of the few cafeteria meals kids actually looked forward to. And here it is, the crown jewel of school lunches in the 1950s and 60s.
Number 39.
Onion sandwich. Can you smell it already? That sharp bite of raw onion tucked between two slices of bread, sometimes softened with a swipe of butter or mayo. Back in the day, kids carried onion sandwiches in their lunch bags, and seniors still chuckle about how bold that flavor was. It wasn't fancy, but it sure was unforgettable. Some say it was a working-class staple, cheap and quick, while others remember it as a dare. Only the brave kids took a bite without tearing up. The excitement came from the crunch, the sting, and the way it lingered long after recess. Think about it. Onion sandwiches weren't just food. They were a badge of toughness, a memory of cafeteria tables where kids swapped bites and stories. And here's the kicker. Those simple layers carried pride, resilience, and a taste of childhood that's hard to forget.
Number 40.
Sardine sandwich. Can you picture the boldness of opening your lunch bag and catching that salty whiff of sardines tucked between bread? Back in the day, sardine sandwiches were a powerhouse. Cheap, packed with protein, and a taste that seniors still remember with a grin or a shake of the head. Some kids loved the oily richness, others tried to trade it away, but either way, it made an impression. The thrill was in the bite, strong, briny, and unforgettable, a flavor that lingered long after recess. Think about it. Sardine sandwiches weren't just food, they were a statement, proof that families stretched every dollar while still sending their kids off with something hearty. And here's the spark. Those sandwiches carried pride, resilience, and a memory of childhood lunches where even the boldest flavors had their place.
Number 41.
Bologna and mustard sandwich. Think back to those school days when a bologna and mustard sandwich was tucked inside a brown paper bag waiting to be unwrapped. That tangy mustard spread across soft bread with a slice of bologna gave kids a taste that was sharp, simple, and straight to the point. Seniors still laugh about how common it was. Some loved the zing, others tried to swap it for peanut butter, but everyone remembers it. The thrill came from that first bite, the mustard kick cutting through the salty meat, a flavor that stuck in memory long after recess ended. These sandwiches weren't just lunch, they were a snapshot of childhood, proof that families kept it quick, cheap, and filling. And here's the punch. Bologna and mustard wasn't fancy, but it carried pride, resilience, and the taste of growing up in an era when simple food told big stories.
Number 42.
Tomato sandwich. Can you taste it already? Thick slices of fresh tomato laid between soft bread, sometimes sprinkled with salt, pepper, or a swipe of mayo. Back in school days, tomato sandwiches were a summertime classic, simple yet bursting with flavor. Seniors still recall biting into those juicy layers, the bread soaking up every drop, turning lunch into a messy but unforgettable treat. Some kids loved the freshness, others thought it was too plain, but everyone remembers the way it stood out in a lunch bag. The excitement came from that first bite, bright, tangy, and full of sunshine, a flavor that carried the season straight into the cafeteria. Think about it. Tomato sandwiches weren't just food, they were a memory of gardens at home, family kitchens, and the pride of bringing something wholesome to school. And here's the spark. Those sandwiches carried the taste of summer, a reminder that even the simplest ingredients could make childhood feel rich and alive.
Number 43.
Mayonnaise and pepper sandwich. Can you imagine the simplicity of 2 slices of bread spread with creamy mayo, then dusted with black pepper for a kick? Back in school days, this sandwich was a quick fix, but seniors still recall how that sharp bite of pepper turned plain mayo into something bold. Some kids loved the smooth, spicy combo, others thought it was too bare bones, but everyone remembers the way it stood out. In a lunch bag, the thrill came from that first bite, creamy, tangy, and then the pepper heat sneaking in, a flavor that lingered through recess. Think about it. Mayonnaise and pepper sandwiches weren't just food, they were proof of resourcefulness, a memory of families making something out of little. And here's the spark. Those sandwiches carried pride, grit, and a taste of childhood that was simple yet unforgettable.
Number 44.
Lettuce and mayo sandwich. Can you picture the crunch of crisp lettuce layered between slices of bread, softened by a spread of creamy mayo? Back in school days, this sandwich was the definition of simple, light, fresh, and easy to pack. Seniors still recall how it felt like a cool bite in the middle of a hot day, a quick fix that carried more memory than flavor. Some kids loved the refreshing crunch, others teased that it was rabbit food, but everyone remembers the way it showed up in lunch bags. The excitement came from that first bite, crisp, creamy, and clean, a taste that stood out because of its simplicity. Think about it. Lettuce and mayo sandwiches weren't just food, they were a reminder of families stretching what they had, turning basic ingredients into something that still carried pride. And here's the spark. Those sandwiches were proof that even the plainest bites could leave behind unforgettable memories of childhood.
Number 45.
Banana and mayo sandwich. Can you picture the surprise of peeling a banana, slicing it, and laying it between bread with a thick spread of mayo? Back in school days, this sandwich was the definition of quirky. Sweet meeting creamy in a way that made kids either love it or laugh at it. Seniors still recall the odd combo, some swearing it was comfort food, others saying it was a dare from the lunchroom. The thrill came from that first bite, the soft sweetness of banana clashing with the tang of mayo, a flavor that stuck in memory long after recess. Think about it. Banana and mayo sandwiches weren't just food, they were a snapshot of childhood creativity, proof that families made do with what they had and turned it into something unforgettable. And here's the spark. Those sandwiches carried pride, humor, and a taste of growing up in an era when even the strangest combos told a story.
Number 46.
Spam and cheese sandwich. Can you picture the salty bite of Spam fried up or straight from the can, layered with a slice of cheese, tucked between bread? Back in school days, Spam and cheese sandwiches were a lunchroom legend. Cheap, filling, and packed with flavor that seniors still recall with a grin. Some kids loved the hearty combo. Others teased it as mystery meat. But everyone remembers the way it stood out in a brown paper bag. The thrill came from that first bite, the savory punch of Spam melting into the creamy cheese, a taste that lingered long after recess. Think about it. Spam and cheese wasn't just food, it was a memory of families making the most of what they had, turning simple pantry staples into something bold. And here's the spark. Those sandwiches carried grit, humor, and a taste of childhood that still makes folks smile today.
Number 47.
Jell-O salad. Jell-O salad was the wild card of the 1970s lunch tray. One day, it was bright lime green with pineapple chunks floating inside. The next day, it had shredded carrots, maybe even a scoop of cottage cheese suspended in neon red gelatin. Yeah, it was a gamble. Cafeterias loved it because it was cheap, colorful, and could be made in massive trays ahead of time. Just mix the flavored gelatin, toss in whatever fruit or vegetables were on hand, let it set overnight, and slice it into wiggly squares. Kids, half of them grabbed it for the sugar rush. The other half stared at it like it was a science experiment gone wrong. It looked fun, but let's be honest, loaded with added sugar, artificial colors, and syrupy canned fruit. Not exactly the health food poster child. As nutrition standards tightened and artificial dyes started getting the side eye, Jell-O salad slowly vanished from school menus. But if you grew up in the 70s, you still remember that jiggle on your tray and wondering what was hiding inside it.
Number 48.
Corn dogs. Corn dogs were cafeteria gold. The second you saw that stick poking out from under the napkin, you knew it was about to be a solid day. No fork, no knife, just grab it and go. That's freedom right there. That hot dog was dipped in thick cornmeal batter and deep fried until golden brown, crispy on the outside, soft and sweet on the inside, with that salty snap in the middle. Add a zigzag of mustard or ketchup, and you were living large for about $1.25. Cafeterias loved them because they were fast, cheap, and easy to serve in bulk. But nutritionally, let's not kid ourselves. Fried batter, processed meat, sky-high sodium. It was basically a county fair on a tray. When schools started pushing baked options and lower-fat meals in the late 80s and 90s, corn dogs slowly got phased out. But if you grew up in the 70s, that first crunchy bite still hits different in your memory.
Number 49.
Tapioca pudding. Tapioca pudding was the quiet kid of the cafeteria dessert table. No flashy colors, no whipped topping mountain. Just a small cup filled with creamy pudding and those tiny little pearls floating inside like edible marbles, made by simmering milk, sugar, and tapioca pearls until thick and silky. It had that smooth, comforting texture that felt almost homemade. Some days, you'd get a hint of vanilla, maybe even a dusting of cinnamon if the lunch lady was feeling generous. Now, let's be real. It wasn't exactly health food. Loaded with sugar and whole milk, it leaned more toward dessert than side dish. But compared to neon gelatin and frosted sheet cake, it felt classy. Kids were split on it. Some loved the texture. Others couldn't get past the fish egg look. You either scraped the cup clean or traded it for cookies. As school menus shifted toward pre-packaged snacks and stricter nutrition standards, tapioca pudding slowly disappeared.
Number 50.
Spam burgers. Spam burgers were the ultimate budget hero of the 1970s lunchroom. When beef prices climbed, or supplies ran low, cafeterias reached for that blue and yellow can and made magic happen. Slices of Spam were pan-fried until the edges got crispy, then slapped onto a soft bun with maybe a slice of cheese and a squirt of mustard. It wasn't glamorous, but it was salty, savory, and surprisingly satisfying. Spam had already made a name for itself during World War II because it didn't spoil and fed millions. By the 70s, it was still the go-to stretch-the-budget protein. Schools loved it because it was affordable and shelf-stable. No waste, no fuss. Now let's be honest, it was loaded with sodium and fat. Processed pork and ham pressed into a block? Yeah, not winning any health awards. As nutrition awareness grew and fresh meat options became more available, Spam burgers slowly vanished from school menus. But for a whole generation, that crispy-edged slice on a bun still screams old-school cafeteria, comfort. So tell me, which one of these cafeteria classics would you bring back tomorrow? And which one deserves to stay buried in 1975? Drop your favorite in the comments. Hit that subscribe button for more forgotten American food legends, and I'll see you next time. Right back in the lunch line.